Alright, I think we're good. Should we start from the top?
Okay, take two.
Okay, so hi guys, it's me Nomi and this is my friend Lena.
Hello.
She's visiting from Sydney and we've been watching each other's YouTube channel for several years now. And so when I found out she was coming to Dallas, I was like, we should definitely meet up. So here we are. Today we wanted to chat about this idea of love where you live. It's something that I discovered only after traveling the world. So for the longest time, since I grew up in Dallas, I started to grow really wary of it, and I was just like, I think I've basically explored everything that there is to explore in Dallas, and
you're just feeling a little bit stuck, right?
Yeah, exactly. And also my friends were graduating and moving to cool places like San Francisco and New York City, and I was just like, wait for me, wait for me. So there was also that aspect playing into it. But as I said, like traveling the world, what I realized from all my travels was that it's really all about perspective, because all cities, after seeing the ones like domestically, such as New York City or San Francisco, or internationally, such as Sydney, Melbourne, Tokyo, Hong Kong, etc., etc., I realized that they're more or less the same. What makes them special are like the people there, and then also the fact that I was excited to go and explore them, and so I was actively seeking like cool cafes, you know, cool events, etc. Exactly, and it made me realize, oh, I could just bring that back. You know,
bring that positive mindset back here.
Yeah, but I saw recently that Lena had posted some Instagram stories about like photographs that she had taken in Sydney, and then she had a mini rant with the photos that was like, you know, you can, like, even if you've lived somewhere forever, you can go out and explore it and still like enjoy it and find new ways to look at it, I think was what you said. So could you speak more to that, and like what sparked that on? Like why all that all of a sudden? Was it something that you felt all along, or was that like sort of a light bulb moment where you're like, wait, actually I like Sydney?
So for me, it was like
you didn't always like Sydney, right? What was your relationship with Sydney?
So I pretty much lived in Sydney like my whole life-ish, minus 2 years. But so yeah, I found it really boring. I always go to the city, and every time I go hang out with people, I go to the city. I eat at the same place, I go to the same places, I pass through the same like buildings, go through their train stations or whatever. And so I was like really bored with the city, and I just thought I've seen everything and there wasn't much to it, and that other places are just more exciting and stuff. And also combined with that, because I started uni last year, and so I found I didn't have the opportunity to go out and take photos as much as I used to, because I really love photography. That's probably like my first passion. Even before YouTube, I loved photography, so I always try and like go out and take photos a lot. And so on my mission to take more photos, I one day was meant to meet up with people, but then I was like 2 hours late because I decided, nope, I want to take a different route. I'm going to go down this random road that I haven't been down in 10 years and see what's there and go around and take photos. And so I like went up to like buildings, I went up to like the top floor, and I would take photos and see the people and just people watch and look at the architecture and the buildings, and it was a lot of fun. Oh, one thing that really stuck out to me from that day, like something that I learned, is that there's this like massive, so there's this tourist area called Darling Harbour, which I hang out with at a lot of the time, and there's this massive bridge that crosses across it, and everyone just walks across it. What I didn't know, I feel like I've been crossing that bridge for like my whole life. Like I've seen that bridge when I was like really little, and I still see it to this day, and yeah, it's just always been there. But I've never realized that if you walk across it, there are some times where it will like open up like this to let boats pass through. And I don't know why, I was just like, I've never seen that before, like on that bridge. So I was like really shook to say the least. And so I was like standing there being like, why is everyone just like in a giant crowd in the middle of the bridge? What's happening? And turns out it was like opening up, and I was like, this is really cool. And I was by myself that day, so, because I was like meeting up with people afterwards. But yeah, just being able to walk around and experience things, especially on my own, was a lot of fun. So I could reignite my love for photography as well as the city.
I think to your point about like you talking about how you were going to the same places to eat and then going to the same places to hang out, part of the problem with Dallas too is just that our public transportation system is really terrible, as Lena had to experience firsthand. I'm so sorry. But because of that, when you're growing up and you're unable to drive, have like lack of public transportation, you're really confined to like whatever area you are at when you're growing up. And so for me, that was like in the suburbs, way far from like the center of the city, which removed me from like free events that I could potentially attend, or like art people which didn't necessarily like exist where I was at. And so that also kind of caused me to believe that there was nothing in Dallas. Just the inability to like transport myself to and go and like involve myself in these communities. But yeah, I would say that even now that I've discovered my love for Dallas, as I've like just started to create like a bucket list to go look for new cafes and look for new events.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Oh really?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Me and my friends always send each other on Instagram places that we have to go to. Yeah.
That's
so
awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Where are some of the places on there that you still have to go to?
In Sydney?
Yeah, or like what's on your list?
Oh, okay. So mostly just cafes, and yeah, there's this place that my friends want to go to like the day I get back. Is basically it's near our high school, but we never heard of it. I think it might be new, but it's like has dessert. So I think there's taro ice cream and stuff.
Classic.
Yeah. So just Asian desserts.
I always feel like I see like really cute food and cafe stuff in Sydney, like on Instagram, of course.
But they're expensive. I feel like me and like the people around me were always complaining about public transport being annoying because the trains are late, the bus isn't here, you know, all those things. But it's something that you kind of just take for granted until you visit a place that doesn't quite have that accessibility or that ease of transportation everywhere. But here it's cool if you have a car. It's fun if you have a car.
I mean, well, if you're not stuck in rush hour traffic and you don't get cut off by people on the road, or if you don't get stuck in traffic because of an accident. But yeah, I would say that this isn't really specific to Sydney, but just anywhere that I travel that has good public transportation, I'm always like, oh my gosh, why doesn't Dallas have this? Especially when you're traveling and you don't have a car and you want to like go out and do tourism things, it's quite annoying. So that's the one thing that I wish like we had, the thing that I hate most about Dallas. I felt like my impression of Sydney, like when I went and visited back in the beginning of 2016, I felt like generally foods and cost of living in Australia and New Zealand, or Australia, is quite expensive. Well, Sydney in particular. I heard it's like one of the most expensive cities to live in the world. So yeah, that was that. But you guys have like really beautiful architecture.
Okay.
Well, I mean, compared to Dallas, it's really interesting because you have buildings that have European influence juxtaposed to like really modern buildings. This I thought was really fascinating because I'd never seen it anywhere else I traveled to up like in my life up to that point. I'm sure it exists in other cities, but in Sydney was the first city that I visited where I saw plants just like flowing from buildings and stuff, and I was just amazed.
I can think of the specific building that you're talking about.
Really? Oh, okay, I wonder if like it's that exact building, because obviously I was just like wandering the streets and being like, whoa, what's that?
Yeah, see, it's interesting because we have been talking a lot to each other about what we like about our cities and what we don't like. And it's funny because she says that she loves Sydney's architecture, whereas I think it's really boring. And whenever I go to a different city, even if it's just to Melbourne, which is a few hours away from me, I find Melbourne so cool and the building's really cool, and like, yeah, I see the European influence, which is really pretty, and of course, but then I find Sydney really boring. And yeah, especially when I go overseas and I see like the buildings and the architecture and the landscapes of different cities around the world, I'm just like, ugh, Sydney's really boring. But to have people not from Sydney come and appreciate like these things is like really interesting.
It's very eye-opening, and
yeah.
I would say that I started opening up to Dallas after a lifelong like misconception about it being boring, etc., came from my conversations I had with other people who lived in Dallas, who love Dallas. It like kind of shocked me because, again, like I was coming from a different mindset, and I was like, oh, you like Dallas? Oh, okay. And then, more interestingly enough, international friends who like Dallas, and I was just, that really surprised me because I was just like, wait, like you like Dallas, but what about New York City or like San Francisco or LA? Like, wait, Dallas? And so I think an accumulation of all these conversations I had with people who enjoyed Dallas started to kind of like ignite that pride in me that I'm like, yeah, I'm from Dallas.
Yeah, maybe I do like this place.
exactly. And also I have a tendency to like cheer for the underdog. So I also feel like Dallas is sort of like an underdog in terms of like development. It's undergoing a lot of development right now, but it's like behind, you know, other cities. Mm-hmm. And so I think that has also contributed to my pride, where I'm like, you know, Dallas is not quite there yet, but we're definitely starting to get there.
Yeah. And especially how, so Nomi's mentioned to me about how people have been like moving here from cities such as New York, LA, and those kinds of things, bringing development and change into the city. You want to talk about that?
Yeah. I think it's a combination of the fact that we don't have income tax here, and then just cost of living here is just like so much cheaper.
That's good.
Yeah, this influx of people is bringing a lot of like new businesses into town as well, and that's really, really exciting because it means like more places for me to explore. And then also like all these people are bringing in their entrepreneurial spirit, etc., etc. So I'm also seeing like all these like new meetups happening, and like all these new communities are starting up, and I feel
like the pop-ups.
Yeah, I would say that like there are pop-up businesses and then like art communities, etc., etc. And I feel really lucky that this is happening at a time when I'm at this age, because if I was younger or older, I might not have appreciated it as much, because younger, with the public transportation issue, I might not have been able to like access, you know, these businesses and people. And then if I was older, like, I don't know, maybe I would have been too wary, but hopefully not. Hopefully I'll stay like young at heart for a very long time, forever. Yeah, exactly. So what have been your favorite things about Dallas? Yeah.
Okay, well, for me it's like a weird thing to point out, I feel like, but so I was on the plane, sitting at the window seat, and then the first thing I noticed when we like touched down was that the grass was yellow, which I found was really interesting and really cool because I've never seen yellow grass before like that. And yeah, I just find, and so extending from that, I just find the landscape of Dallas really pretty. Basically, to me, it's what stands out are the colors that are like orangey and yellow and really warm colors. And yeah, it's just really pretty when you see it in pictures and in person, of course. And also the natural bodies of water just everywhere, like the lakes. Just randomly in the middle of a neighborhood, you'll have a lake, and I'm like, wow, this is so cool, and no one is there to appreciate it except for me. But
Does
I'm like,
it not exist in Sydney? Like
just
random
lakes?
Bodies of water, like random ponds?
I don't think so.
Really?
Maybe like they would build like an actual park around it if there were.
Oh.
But, yeah, but it's not super common, I don't think.
Okay, that's so fascinating. So yeah, this is really interesting because I think that the Dallas, like, besides public transportation, the other greatest like deficit of Dallas is our nature, like the lack of ability to do outdoor cool things, because we don't have cool places to hike, unlike like you guys have Bondi Beach, and then like the walk that you can do like next to the water, and then yeah, it's so beautiful. But anyways, differing opinions. But yeah, I think that the Dallas landscape is really dull just because of how flat. It is like we live in the middle of the plains, and so when I go anywhere with like a little bit of elevation variation, I get really excited because I'm like, oh my god, it's not flat. Yeah, oh my god, it's like even if it's like just like a small hill, I'm like. Yeah, it's like, you know, variation or whatever, so it's really interesting to hear you say that. And then the whole yellow thing is really funny too, because anytime I visit anywhere else that's not so warm toned, which I didn't even realize until you said this, that we have like such warm tones. I'm like, oh my god, this place is so alive and lush. Where unlike Dallas, we're all like dead, and like the yellow grass that you mentioned, I view it as like dead grass. I'm like, oh, look at that ugly like dead grass. Nothing, yeah, exactly. So, really, really interesting stuff.
Yeah, but I think it's cool and it's pretty, and I appreciate it.
It was awesome. Yeah. And I think the other thing too about my recent discovery of like loving Dallas is it's been really neat. I've had like a couple international friends visit me in the past year or so, and it's been really nice like me being able to take them out and just show them why I love it and make them love Dallas too. Again, it goes back to like the whole like cheering on for the underdog things, because then they're typically like blogger friends, Instagram influencers, people, and then I'm like, would you recommend Dallas to your, like, would you tell other people to visit? And they're typically like, yeah, I love it, and I'm like, yes, it makes me like so happy. I'm like,
especially when you meet like creative people who can like share their art as well, and show how their art has been influenced by the place that they're visiting.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, on an older video of mine, I just remember this comment really stuck out to me because it wasn't something that I actively thought of before, and it wasn't my everyday experience, but I think it was a viewer from Southeast Asia. I won't say exactly where because I'm not sure if I'll get it right, but they were just saying that how they also want to be like me, just like go around the city, explore things, you know, see new things, but they find it difficult because in their country it's not safe for especially like young females to be just wandering around outside. And so that really like struck a chord in me, because I thought that was, that's, whilst I do feel danger while being outside by myself at night, it's not like I spend every second of every day just worrying. And so I think that's an interesting experience, that as much as we can say, oh, go out and explore, see new things, drive to new places, you know.
Right, change your perspective. Sometimes like in those circumstances it is quite difficult to just...
and like, because we can say all this, but at the end of the day some places just might not be
ideal.
Ideal.
And like I don't think Lena or I have a really good answer for this, especially I don't even think that we kind of have the right to answer this, especially
because we haven't lived through it ourselves.
Exactly, like we've been really privileged to live in a place where we feel comfortable exploring alone. So I would be curious to know like what your anyone who's watching this, what your thoughts are on such a situation. If you want to like leave a comment below, we would love to hear some discussion around like your thoughts on this. I think one idea that just came to my mind, but of course it's all like circumstantial, like depending on situation, but like maybe if it's not safe to travel alone, like maybe with a group of friends, potentially. So then the difficulty is finding that group of friends that you like really vibe with, and because for example, I'm someone who's really artistic and I take like a billion photos, so sometimes I feel uncomfortable traveling with certain friends who aren't really as into it, because like I enjoy things. I enjoy things through my camera lens. Like by me taking a photo of something, it's the act of me enjoying it. Like I appreciate this wall, so I'm gonna pause and take a picture of this wall, which might not make any sense to someone who doesn't also have that same like aesthetic draw or whatever. Okay, so maybe I can travel with friends that could potentially solve the problem, but I don't have such friends. I don't have friends that I feel comfortable traveling, enjoying the city with, because we don't have the same likes or dislikes. So yeah, I think this goes back to like another thought that I had, that sometimes I just prefer traveling alone. This is not like, now I'm like kind of jumping topics, but
Yeah,
sometimes I
solo
prefer,
traveling.
yeah, prefer just like exploring places by myself, just because then I can take as long as I want with my camera or whatever.
Yeah.
If I want to pause somewhere and just like sketch something, then I can, and I won't be like holding up anyone or like making them bored or annoyed.
You gotta do what you want to do. So like a few weeks ago, I was wandering around downtown Dallas, and for me, I've only really been to cities that have their CBD, the Australian term, or their downtown area is like the main hub of everything, of activity, of tourism, of sightseeing, of like doing stuff and like visiting shops and cafes and all those things. But then I found it strange, well, I found it different, or a little bit strange, that Dallas was, maybe it was the time of day that I went, because I went in the middle of the week, like pretty sure it was probably on a Wednesday, in like the middle of the day, so everyone is like at home working, or not at home, sorry, they're in their offices working or whatever. And so, but I found it just pretty empty, like, yeah, just everyone's busy working. And so I was talking to my dad about this, and he says that Dallas is quite, like, it's a very working city, so people come here to work, and so to see like the downtown's purpose is more of just a place for you to work versus just run around and be free, like what I'm used to. So that was something just that I noted.
Yeah, you reminded me that this is another gripe, because it is such a working city. It's something that's like very strange. It's like cafes close at 5 p.m. because it closes when people go home from work.
And they're like, well, no one else is going to come here, so
exactly. So basically, the main hubs of activity right now around Dallas are like not in downtown, but just like in the neighborhoods that surround it, are like the places that you would go after work, but you wouldn't stay in downtown after work. And I would say our downtown's like also really small too, compared to like other people's central business districts. Would you say that, or would you say it's comparable in size to city?
Yeah, I don't know, because to me everything in America is just huge. Like,
oh really?
like,
okay.
Distance wise, buildings wise, like shops wise, so many aisles, supermarkets are 10 times the size now. So like, not sure, but yeah, I guess I can see that. Yeah.
Okay.
Like, because as you said, it's the neighborhoods around it that are like the activity, that's where everything's happening. So maybe like downtown doesn't need that much work, it's just people need to be more aware of that. There's more to it than downtown, which is what I was used to. Like, yeah, that you can visit other places.
You make a really good point.
Oh, thank you. And it's like how last time me and Nomi hung out, she took me to this area called Deep Ellum.
Deep Ellum.
Yeah. Is that considered downtown?
It's like, no, it's not considered downtown.
Okay.
It's like right
It's
next to
like
downtown.
yeah.
Anyways, I think that pretty much covers everything I wanted to say on this topic. Did you have anything else?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah.
Okay,
Fun
so
discussion.
if you want to see more Lena, she makes really beautiful vlogs and then like artsy videos. I feel like you're a true like mixed media artist, like 'cause you can draw, you do photography, which was your first love, and then also videos. But yeah, follow her on her Instagram and her YouTube channel, and you'll see what I mean. Okay.
Follow Nomi too, of course, if you haven't already.
Alright, we will catch you guys later. Bye.
Bye.